What's up, gunfighters? Got a request. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, can you do a podcast talking about the difference in spot and stalk hunting versus blind hunting? I'm going to throw in there spot and stalk / still hunting versus blind versus tree stand hunting. Okay, so I grew up doing a lot of stand hunting east of the Mississippi. I'll be honest, I don't really like it. It certainly is effective, especially if you're hunting small areas of land. I much prefer spot and stalk and still hunting. For blind hunting, stand hunting, pick a good spot, be patient, don't move, don't smell, and wait. It's really that simple. When it comes time to make the shot, make sure you make a good shot. Spot and stalk and still hunting is much more complex. It's much different. It's akin from going to playing checkers to playing chess. That being said, some things, to be honest, in stalking are maybe a little bit easier. You get to move around more, which I really like. Also, smell, I'm not going to say it's not important, but it's not as important. If you're stuck in a tree, like a lollipop just sticking out there, you can't really control what the wind is doing in relationship to you and where the deer are or you think they're going to be. If you're spot and stalk hunting, I can look at a plot of land and unless the wind does some kind of crazy change, I can generally approach where I think those deer are, where I know those deer are, in a manner that they don't smell me. Even if I were to wear, garlic scented deodorant, it wouldn't matter because I know how to read the wind and I know where they are and I know where I should approach from. A lot of times now, the wind can do crazy things and switch around, or it could be blowing a different area than you don't know in thermal patterns with mountains and valleys, but you get the idea. It's a little bit more forgiving there. Also, like I said, you can move around. Also, especially out west, this may sound crazy to people that hunt out east, but I can maybe bump an elk or a mule deer or something. He might run, but I might get back on him 2 or 3 times before I get a good shot. Generally, with the amount of area and stuff you're hunting back east, if you spook a whitetail, he's pretty much gone. He's probably gone on the area you can hunt him. You can cover miles and miles, and I generally know where elk are going to go. He doesn't just go crazy and cover mountain after mountain. Might get another chance at him. So there's that. But it's a lot more multifaceted, shall we say. Now, I've done an episode on spot and stalk hunting. I'm going to plug that in here and put this out and then delete the older version of it from the feed, or one of the older versions of it on the feed. If you enjoy the improved audio quality, hope you will consider supporting on Patreon. If you think the knowledge you get from this podcast is worth a fraction of the cost of a box of ammo, per month, $5 a month will get you a Patreon, and you get a lot of cool insider content. But I don't want to prolong this. I'm going to plug in that episode, and hopefully you can learn about spot and stalk and still hunting if you're not acquainted with it. Today we're going to talk about stalking. Not stalking as in stalking women. I'm talking about spot and stalk hunting. I'm talking about getting primitive with whatever it is, a rifle, a bow, a handgun, or whatever it is, getting out in the wilderness, stalking up on a living animal, killing it, and eating its flesh. That's what we're talking about today in Gunfighter Life. As always, I'm your host, Michael Melito. A little bit about me in this podcast. I've been very blessed by God to do a lot of things. First and foremost in life, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. It's first and foremost in my life and everything that I do. And this podcast is no different. All the things that I've been blessed and graced to be able to do, I take no credit for those. Those are all a gift from God. I grew up hunting and fishing and shooting at a very early age in the South. That's the southeastern United States for those of you outside the U.S. In the backwoods of Virginia, hunting and fishing. In a world that doesn't really exist, even a few decades later like it did back then. Some of my earliest and fondest memories are walking around the woods with a gun or shooting. I joined the Marine Corps at 17, where by God's grace I made it back after 2 combat tours in Iraq alive. Not because I was better or deserved it, but because God chose to save me. And after that, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps under Mojave Viper, where I taught urban warfare and desert warfare to troops going overseas, both our military and foreign militaries. I also work for L.A.P.D, where by God's grace, again, I work some of the nastiest streets in the country in L.A., doing regular patrol work and fugitive recovery, where by God's grace, again, I made it out in one piece. Also served the United States Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard, in different combat MOSs, primary infantry 11 Bravo. I've been a long-time competition shooter. I did my first formal shooting competition in 1998. I've been very blessed by God with talents to win anything from precision rifle to action pistol, steel challenge, USPSA. I've competed in muzzleloader, archery, you name it. I've been very blessed to compete in it, even hatchet throwing, things like that I've competed in. But I've been very blessed to win a lot of competitions in rifle and pistol. Those are kind of my bread and butter. Rifle was really my first competition passion, and then pistol later in life, because I figured if I was going to have to defend myself with a gun, it was most likely going to be a handgun. I was a commander of a tactical team, an S.R.T team, special response team. Most of you would consider it a SWAT team in a very large metropolitan area. I was blessed to be the commander of that unit. And by God's grace, I've always also been a private contractor and worked for some 3-letter government agencies, which I won't mention because it's not a part of this podcast and not really important. And I don't say any of that to brag. Like I said, all that stuff is a gift from God, but I say it to say that I come at this from a real-world perspective. I am right now a professional hunter and guide, which not a lot of people can say in this day and age. Hunting anything from elk to buffalo to all kinds of exotic deer on a very large ranch, which I'll get into at the end of the podcast. But I'm very blessed to have that job, and very blessed to be able to be a professional hunter and guide, and like a professional buffalo and elk hunter. How many people in today's day and age are blessed to be able to say that? I'm a professional firearms instructor and trainer, F.B.I certified, N.R.A certified, all those things. So I'll get more into that at the end of the podcast. But today we're talking about spot and stalk hunting, which is something that I love. There's a quote by Jeff Cooper, Townsend Whalen, one of the big-time guys decades ago in the hunting and shooting world. And I'm not sure exactly which one said it, and I'm not sure the exact quote, but it's something like, men stalk alone in the wilderness. Or men stalk with a rifle alone in the wilderness. Something like that. And I would say there's something intrinsically just, I don't even know how to describe it. Just something that if you have done it and don't do it, you feel like something's missing. And I think if you've never done it, you just are missing out. I don't know how else to put it, but grabbing a weapon and stalking a living animal in the wilderness and taking it and butchering it and consuming its flesh is just something I think that every man, if he feels called to, should experience. And not everybody is going to do that. I get that there are vegetarians and vegans, and I'm not putting that down. I get that there are pacifists, and that's fine. That's certainly not me, but I certainly do not pretend to be any better than those people. But if that's not you and that appeals to you, I encourage you to learn how to spot and stalk hunt. I encourage you to learn how to hunt and how to spot and how to stalk. And you don't need a gun for this. You don't need a license for this. To do the kind of stuff I'm talking about, yeah, you need a license. But you can practice this in a park with squirrels. You can practice this on whatever, wherever you are. I'm sure there's something you can try and spot and stalk on. It might not be the same, but it's a similar skill that you can develop. You can do it with a camera. Your goal could be to get super close to get a really good picture. And you could get the skill of spotting and stalking and maybe even still hunting without a gun, and that's totally fine. But let me tell you about a recent blessed experience that I had. It's a buffalo hunt, which is something I had always wanted to do, and in today's world it's kind of hard to do. But I'm very blessed, like I said, to be the steward of a ranch, one of the stewards of a ranch, a very large hunting operation where they have buffalo and elk and fallow and axis and sika deer and and rams and all those things. And this was a buffalo archery hunt, which, hunting buffalo is a rare thing. Hunting buffalo archery is another rare thing. And the client that I have was a great guy, really meek, very wise older gentleman. I think he was wise because he didn't talk a lot. And usually people talk less when they're wise. So, he was a great man. I was really honored and humbled to be his guide on this buffalo hunt. And we were going after the big alpha male of the buffalo herd. And our first attempt, we had quite a few people with us trying to film and stuff like that, and it didn't work out. And I was very blessed to be selected to be his sole guide, literally walking in this giant wilderness ranch with just him and I. And I had a rifle just in case, but he was armed with a bow, and we were trying to stalk up. So first we had to locate these buffalo. And we didn't know, we kind of knew where they were, but not exactly. We had to locate them and stalk up on them. And if you know anything about archery hunting, you have to be in a lot closer than you do with a rifle. So we had to stalk in pretty close. This guy told me he was comfortable at no further than 40 yards. So let me just tell you about this experience. We start looking for these buffalo. We had scared them once before with some more people, so we kind of knew the general area where they were. We sat down for a while. It was a beautiful, unseasonably warm day. It may have been January. I don't remember if it was February yet or not. I would have to check my phone for the date on the pictures. But we sat and looked, enjoying the beautiful day and God's beautiful creation. Psalms 19, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the earth shows us his handiwork. We didn't see anything, so I figured they must be in another area since they didn't pass us. So we started stalking through the woods and on the edges of fields. We went back and forth, checking a couple of different fields. These are plains bison, so they're more of a field species than a forest species, although they can be found in both. And we checked a couple of fields with no bison, and then we found him. First I spotted the female, and then I figured the alpha male was somewhere close at hand. And we spotted the big buffalo herd. Now the alpha male and the ones below him, there's not much difference unless they're standing exactly side by side. But this one had kind of a more blonde mane, and I had known him from seeing him in times past. And I talked to my hunter, and I got him set, and I made sure that he knew which buffalo was the alpha and the biggest of the group. And we tried to stalk in close to these bison. These bison had already been spooked once before, so they weren't having it. There was not enough cover, not enough trees, and not enough permissible terrain. There was a deep canyon between us, not a deep canyon, but a sizable canyon between us that prevented just a flat-out stalk of walking up on these bison. We got in a position, which is a guide's, part of a guide's thing is knowing the lay of the land and knowing to read the wind. And